Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mike Armstrong podcast show. And this afternoon, I'm joined by Dawn Evans from Ajuda, and we're going to have a little chat about her business and about the lockdown and a bit of networking as well, I suppose. So, how are you doing today, Dawn? You okay?
I'm very good. Thank you, Mike. And thank you for having me on your podcast.
No problem at all. And thanks for coming on. So, the place I usually like to start with people, as it's topical, is the lockdown. So, how has the lockdown been for you? And have you done any pivoting in your business during this time?
Yeah, well, I had to really. Someone once described me only last week as a phoenix because I've just risen from the ashes. But yeah, I mean, for those who don't know me, I run a training center and we run lots of face-to-face training and lots of online training. Well, on the 23rd of March, when lockdown arrived, our face-to-face training just fell off a cliff, complete stop. And we went from having 6 courses a day to absolutely zero. So I thought about it and thought, oh, what's going to happen? So yeah, I pivoted. I had to. It's all about survival in these times. You can either sit and wallow in self-pity or you can pivot and adapt. And that's what I did. So we promoted our online training. We did a massive campaign around that, and that went up by 400%. So really good, and it's got us through the COVID period, because I know there are a lot of training companies out there that have suffered, and you know, our sector have suffered, not as much as the airlines and retail, but training has suffered because of the close contact. And when you're doing first aid and putting people in the recovery position, it's not possible with social distancing, so it all had to stop. So our training centre closed down on the 23rd of March. We reopened on the 6th of July, so we are moving forwards. But I just jumped online like I think everybody else did. I think I wish I had shares in Zoom because they've gone flying. And as you know, I set up another company with my good friend Tracy during lockdown, and that's supporting female entrepreneurs. And that has just skyrocketed. And it was a really good time to set up a business online because everybody's online. So we just embraced that and worked on an additional income stream to get us through the COVID period, which we're still going to continue once we all go back to the new normal.
Yeah, good. And obviously, being a serial entrepreneur and having, if you like, a number of different ventures on the go, has probably helped you with that pivoting and the mindset to pivot, etc. And also having sort of multiple streams of income, because I know you do events and other things as well, and a bit of property and all of that. So that takes the pressure off as well, doesn't it? So, I think as people sort of realize now, those that did have all their eggs in one basket and have had to sort of pivot and whatever, I think the world of multiple streams of income and entrepreneurialism and doing different ventures is the way, I think, is the blueprint for the planet going forward. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as a business coach and mentor, and I'm also a wealth coach for Kevin Green, the Kevin Green brand. And I always, when I'm talking to my clients, I always say, you need at least 5 income streams. The average millionaire has 7 income streams. And I think to survive, you need at least 5. Having 1 income stream, and like you said, having your eggs all in one basket is just not good enough anymore. People can't survive with just 1 income stream. I've got 7 or 8 income streams myself. As you mentioned, I've got the property. We picked up the keys on Friday to a new property. So again, I made the most of a bad situation because the property prices in commercial buildings have dropped. So I went in with a post-COVID price and I managed to knock £60,000 off my original price that I'd offered, and ended up with a bargain, a building, a 4-story building at a knockdown price. So I think any other income streams, and when I'm coaching, I always say, just think you've got five taps going into a bucket, and if one of those taps turn off, you've still got 4 taps flowing into your bucket. And the aim is not to let your bucket go dry. So if you only had one tap and that turned off, you can have a dry bucket and no cash. Well, if one or even two taps turn off, then you're still going to have water flowing into that bucket. So the multiple income stream approach is essential to grow and flourish in business. And I would advise anyone just to look at different income streams. Some could be bread and butter. I mean, you mentioned that we do the events as well. That's another tap that got turned off because I had a big event in Cardiff City Stadium, a live event that was due to take place on the 21st of May. I had to cancel that with over 1,400 people booked on. We were going to hit our target of 2,000 by May, cancelled that in April, and we moved our events online. So where that tap turned off, we've now got a mental health conference on the 8th of October, which is going fully online, and we've been doing conferences ever since May. Well, a month, and we've been having between 500 and 600 people turn up for the conferences as well online. So that's something I never even thought of doing before COVID. So I've had to adapt. I've moved online, and I moved online pretty quick. But it was either adapt or fail, and fail is not an option for me.
No, good. And am I right in thinking as well, you also pivoted a bit towards the PPE?
Yeah, so we've got a training company, and we've always had the PPE, we just never promoted it. So on our Ajuda website, it's predominantly training, but we also have a medical shop with over 8,000 products on it. And one of those products were actually face masks and hand sanitizer. So we'd always sold that, and we've been selling that for the last 2 or 3 years. So we just obviously handpicked it out of our shop and phoned our supplier. We ordered in bulk so we could get the price down, because there was some stupid prices in the early COVID days. Hand sanitizer was going on eBay for sort of 60, 70 quid a bottle. It was just ridiculous. So I phoned up my supplier, and it was in the UK, because the other thing that was happening, there was people bringing in from China, and it was fake. There wasn't the right ingredients in the hand sanitizer, so you don't know what that was going to do to your skin. So we knew we had a good supply, we had good products, so we just handpicked it out of our shop and promoted that, really. And again, we were helping people at a reasonable price that wasn't overpriced, and yeah, that sold out really well. So another pivot there too.
Yeah, good. And I'll actually have to speak to you following this podcast at some point, because a contact of mine has got covers for computers, laptops and stuff. They're like medical covers, so that you can change the covers when different people change the computers, for when you've got like receptionist workers or office workers, where they've got different shifts and that sort of thing. So a new contact, an old contact of mine contacted me recently with these as well. So they might be something you're interested in to add to your offering.
Yeah, put them in touch. We'll put it on the shop. No problem at all.
Yeah, definitely. And ultimately, the more you can spread the risk and have the multiple incomes, the more you can take the pressure off when one of them struggles or fails. So tell us a little bit about the background of Ajuda, Dawn, and how you ended up getting into it in the first place.
Well, that's sort of, Ajuda now has been going, I started back in 2006, and the reason I started, I was a sole trader in the early days, and I called my business Aid Training Wales, and the reason I started that was following a choking incident with my daughter. I was working as a lifeguard at the time, so I had first aid skills anyway. And we were in a play group, and my daughter was only little, 3 or 4, and she choked on a wine gum, and she went limp, she went purple, she couldn't breathe in, couldn't breathe out, and I knew I had about 3 minutes to save her life. So I just went into my lifeguard head, went full on to the choking protocol. The sweet come out, she vomited all over me, started breathing, and the mums that were with me said, Dawn, if you weren't you wouldn't know what to do, will you teach us? So I started teaching them, and I just had my son as well, and I knew that although I loved my job in the leisure centre, working shifts and children was not ideal. And I just saved this little girl's life, my daughter, and now I had the ability to save other lives through teaching first aid. So that's what I decided to do. I kicked it off in 2006, and I was trainer by day, and I was marketing, admin, finance by night, as you are when you first start a business. And I did that for a couple of years. And in 2009, the training got so in demand that I had to take on staff, because I was being offered 2-3 courses a day and there was only one of me. So I decided to go into a limited company, and that's when Ajuda was born. And then we got offices, and then I got a team of trainers, and the rest, they say, is history. But around Ajuda and the name, it means help in Portuguese. So a lot of people say to me, why Ajuda? Because my first logo was a big Welsh dragon. I was Welsh and proud, and first aid training Wales, which is what I did. But my friend said, Dawn, you're not going to go over the bridge and conquer the English with a dragon. You need to have a more corporate name. So we went into Google Translator, and my friend said to me, what do you do? I said, I want to help people save lives. So we put in the word help in Google, and out popped Ajuda, which means help in Portuguese. So that's where we got the name from. And then obviously we just didn't do just first aid, because now we do food hygiene, fire, mental health, and we got about 80 different subjects. So I needed one word that would, focus on the word help and not just first aid training, because as the company evolved and grew, I needed a more corporate name. And we chose Ajuda, and that was back in 2009, which was 11 years ago. Yeah. So yeah, and that's the history behind the name and Ajuda. And moving forward, we've got Ajuda Property now, and Ajuda Business, and a coaching. So the brand has just grown and gone from strength to strength over the last 11 years. So it's been great.
Yeah, it's great. It's great that you picked a name that lends itself, because a lot of people do limit themselves with their name, because they'll call themselves something Wales, and then when they grow outside of Wales, they can't, can't expand that.
And I made that mistake as an amateur who knew nothing about business. I mean, back in 2006, Mike, I didn't even know what an invoice was. I knew nothing about business whatsoever. And I made the mistake that everyone does. They either call a business after their name or their country or their city. And I fell into that trap. So, it's great that I did it. And now as a business mentor, I can now sort of learn by my own mistakes and help others excel and succeed without making the mistakes that I did. But yeah, it's a lovely corporate name. And on Companies House, we were the only Ajuda in the whole UK. In fact, I haven't even seen another Ajuda in the whole world. So it's really unique. It starts with A, it's one word, it's what I wanted. Yeah. So I'm happy with it, and long may it live on.
Yeah, I think so many people they rush into picking the name, and they don't really give enough thought to it, but they need to start thinking bigger, at the start, when you start off, because you've got to think about, okay, what direction might I take this business in, and therefore what flexibility does my name have to allow me to do that? But,
Yeah, no, definitely. And what you said then, starting with the end and the bigger picture, now as obviously a business coach and a wealth coach, the first thing I always say to my clients is you need to start with the end in mind and then work backwards. Yeah. And I sit there and I say, right, we're going to work on your retirement plan. And I said, Dawn, I'm just starting a business. Why do I want to work on my retirement plan? Because if you don't know why you're in business and you don't know where you're going, you're not going to get there. So first thing to do is work out your why and work out your retirement. Why are you doing what you're doing, and how are you going to get there? So plan the journey. Start with the end in mind and then plan the journey. That's what I always say to people.
Yeah, definitely. And I did a bit of pivoting myself. I was blogging a lot more than I am now. I still do a bit of blogging, but I'm on a mission to become a global speaker. So that's why I started my podcast. And then because I'm into efficiency, podcasting was too long because I wanted to do YouTube as well. So I thought, well, if I Zoom it, I can do podcasting and YouTube at the same time and have networking chats as well. So I'm doing 3 things at once. And then when it goes to YouTube and the podcast, I can share it to all my social media. So to me, it's like I do about 4 hours worth of work in about an hour.
So and that's brilliant. And it's all about gaining that trading time for money, isn't it? And getting that passive income. So you're doing really well, Mike. Keep it up.
Yeah, well, I love talking anyway, so it's a good vehicle for me. It's much better than talking, so it's easier, isn't it? But so tell us a little bit about sort of how you started the mental health show and why, and obviously what to expect in the event that's coming up in October.
Well, yeah, so back in 2014, I started the National Education Show and grew that, and that became the biggest education show in Wales. We had over 3,000 teachers turn up, 40 seminars, 140 exhibitors, and that was really brilliant. I actually sold that company last summer because I wanted to focus on mental health and well-being. And there's quite a few people who are very close to me that have suffered with their mental health. And I wanted to learn more about mental health and how I can help these important people in my life. And so I went and I became a mental health first aid trainer for both adults and youth. And I took all the knowledge that I had from creating the education show and decided to have a show focused solely on mental health and well-being. I mean, it's rife and it's on the uprise, and there's so many people that need educating around mental health, around well-being, around suicide prevention, and it's just getting the message out there, educating people, saying it's okay not to be okay, to drop the stigma, and more importantly, being able to signpost them to the right people. And that's when I started the Mental Health and Wellbeing Show. So we've gotten talks with lots of professionals. We've got Time to Change Wales on board. We've got Mind Cymru, Suicide Alliance, Calm. We got Thrive Approach. There's so many really good charities that's jumped on board where they can, come to the show and share their information. So like I did with the education show, this mental health show is going to be the biggest one in Wales for mental health information, for signposting, for educating and, learning how you can help others with their mental health and well-being. And we're just encouraging people to talk, because I think by having conversations around mental health and being able to talk, you could just save somebody's life. And that's what I want to do. And that's what Ajuda is all about. Our ethos is, and our strapline is, we educate people to save lives. And it's such a good skill to have. And I've got the ability to save more lives now by putting the Mental Health and Wellbeing Show on too.
Yeah, great. That was the reason why I created my podcast, because I created it at the start of lockdown, and I knew there was going to be a mental health issue come in, because, with people being locked down, some people will thrive in that situation, as I have, and some people will find it difficult, and I knew that was going to be the case. So that's why I call my podcast You Can Do It, and I try and do a motivational thing every morning where I give people a bit of an uplift at the beginning of the day, and I try and get personal development and business coaching and life coaching and all that sort of stuff in as episodes, in the podcast. And obviously most of the people I have on are positive entrepreneurs who have got their own little messages to give as well. So yeah, that was why I started that. So yeah, I think it's important for people to do as much as they can at the moment in that mental health space and get people talking and coming up with strategies and habits and things that people can do to get out of their own head and get into a more productive, positive life.
Yeah, 100%. And loneliness is, with people being locked down and isolating and shielding, loneliness will have a massive impact on mental health. So it's really good to tackle loneliness, to talk about mental health and well-being as well. I know the government have just brought out their plan for obesity. And, again, that is people turn to food when they're sad. So it's just tackling the whole exercise, well-being, mental health, mindfulness. It's just all so topical and also needed. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to bring everybody under one roof on one day, and any product service that you need to know about will be in Cardiff City Stadium on the 20th of May. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's good. It's funny you mentioned about being sad, because I come up with I've written a 5-step happiness formula, which come to me one day. It was after listening to Jarek Robbins, Tony Robinson,
yeah,
and he had a 5 steps to happiness thing, and sort of I was living that at the time, so I adapted it a little bit, and I've called it SMART. I wanted to come up with an acronym, which Jarek Robbins don't teach, like, he just says 5 steps to happiness. And I had a couple of things, some variants that he didn't have. So I decided, actually, I think this is a good time to teach people how to be happy, because, so many people get locked in their own head and stuck in their own condition or whatever. I helped a friend of mine through some mental health problems, and I myself probably plateaued for a while in life after my divorce and needed a bit of a boost. So I managed to get myself over that, and I helped my mate. And then all of a sudden during lockdown, I come up with this happiness formula. And so that's one of the things I'm going to speak and teach people about for probably the rest of my life, I think, is I call it SMART, the SMART happiness formula. And it's about sleep, meditation or mindfulness, ability to perform, which covers exercise, nutrition and hydration, and then random acts of kindness and target setting and achievement.
So brilliant. Perfect.
And yeah, I know it works, because I actually was living it at the time it worked. I was like, I think I was the happiest I think I've ever been at the beginning of lockdown. And because I was doing things, I'm very goal orientated, and that's why targets is part of the SMART formula. And if you're actually achieving goals and setting them, the anticipation to hit them is good, but also the ticking them off and achieving them is good as well. And I wrote a book, for example, at the start of lockdown, and I moved to Penarth Marina for a while, and that's somewhere I always wanted to live. And I think if you set yourself stuff to look at in the future and then start achieving them, it's much better to be going forward than thinking about the past and being locked in your own head and all of that. So yeah, that's why I wrote the formula. So I just thought I'd tell you that, because I know it's something.
No, it's amazing. And obviously, I've got the mental health and wellbeing professional group on Facebook. So pop the formula in there. I'm sure it'll help many people, because we've got about 700 people in there. So
I have thought about that.
I'm sure they'll all be interested. Yeah, I'm sure they'll all be interested.
I've joined a few other Facebook groups, mental health ones and stuff, and I've shared a bit of knowledge in it to see how it went down. And yeah, it goes down quite well when people. I think what I always tell people when they're suffering mental health problems is to whenever possible, just try and get out of their own head of thinking of things, and just think of, I was saying, when people have been struggling in lockdown, what are you looking forward to when lockdown's open? Get people to look forward and not, where they are now and where they're thinking of the past, and just to plan exciting things forward and look forward. And I think it seems to help quite a lot of different mental health problems if they can get them to just focus on the future and not, so much on the past or the things that they're focused on day to day,
Yeah, no, definitely, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, keep up the good work. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, well, I'm similar to yourself, Dora. I like helping people. I think it's good to help people. I think, Ajuda, the name help, it lends itself to what you do, which is help people, really. And I think it's fantastic. So keep up the good work. And the reason I think it's fantastic is I think helping people is one of the best things you can do on the planet,
Yeah, and if you can help people whilst doing the living, when, what else would I want to be doing? It doesn't feel like a job,
No,
and
it's rewarding, isn't it, when you help people?
Really rewarding, and especially when you get letters thanking you because you've helped someone save a life. And we've had many letters where people have written in after doing one of our training courses and said, thanks for your training. I've actually gone and got help. And there was one man who came just 3 weeks ago when we first opened. He came on our mental health first aid course, and we were talking about depression and anxiety, And he went home and he came to me on the course and he said, I can see all these symptoms in my wife. And he emailed me the next day and said, thank you for the course. We've booked my wife in with a GP and she's being diagnosed with depression and anxiety. And their marriage was about to break down because he didn't understand what was wrong with her. But now he's been able to signpost her and get help for her. They're both, you know, in a stronger place. She's more positive and he's more supportive. So just little things like that. And with first aid as well, we have letters all the time saying, you know, we've been able to save our child, save our father, through all the skills that we've learned with you. So, you know, it's a brilliant way to earn a living and I love it and I wouldn't want to be doing anything else.
Yeah, you should try and send a film crew or a video crew around to some of those people and make a really inspiring YouTube video.
I got more important things to be doing, Mike. So, you know,
you're
for
helping
me,
more people by sticking a really good video on that with all the people saying,
well, do you know, for me, the best win was back 6 years ago. My father actually had a heart attack. And, you know, I taught my mum and dad first aid, but my mum actually had to do CPR on my father and we had to get a defib on him, 5 shocks on a defib, 3 months in intensive care. And he's still alive today. So for me, that's the biggest win. So what I practice and I preach saved my father's life. So I'm really, really grateful. And I always use my father's story when I teach, and I say, you can't save everybody, but you don't know who you're going to save and you've got to give it a go. And that night, CPR saved my father's life. So it's you know, it's a brilliant skill to have.
It's one that you just never know when you're going to need it. But, you know, at some point in your life, you're probably going to at some point.
Yeah, no, definitely. So so there's lots of things that I do, like, you know, and but I'm really, really proud of Ajuda and what we've achieved, and we've trained over 80,000 people now UK wide. So I'm really, really proud of that.
Yeah, really good. All right then. I'm conscious of the fact that you're on holiday away in France at the moment.
That's okay. I've always got time for you, Mike. You know that.
I know that. But yeah, I don't want to take up all of your time. I'm sure you've got some vino, some wine to be drinking or something. So just like to say thank you for coming on my podcast and for telling everyone a little bit about yourself and what you do. Is there anything sort of final you want to leave people with, or any information on how they can get in touch with you, etc., Dawn?
Yeah, no, if you want to get in touch with me, my Twitter is at Ajuda Dawn. So Ajuda is AJUDA. My email is dawn@ajuda.org.uk. So, and our website is ajuda.org.uk. And the mental health show is mhwshow.co.uk.
Yeah, great. And, you know, if you've got stuff to plug, I'm happy for you to plug it. Like, you know, that's why I like to, you know, part of me doing these videos is helping people to promote their business, you know. So I always try and get people to make sure, you know, some people are a bit shy with giving all of their contacts and stuff. And I'm like, reel them off. I don't mind, you know.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, hopefully someone will get in touch. What's the groups as well? On just remind people of the groups, the IWOW.
Yeah. So, so I set up a group with my friend Tracy, and that is called Inspirational Women of the World. So IWOW for short. But on Facebook, it's Inspirational Women of the World. We've got 3,250 members. So that's going really well. And that is an uplifting community for helping and guiding female entrepreneurs or budding female entrepreneurs. And then we've got the mental health and wellbeing professionals. That's the group that I created for, again, uplifting and advising, guiding people with mental health and wellbeing interests. So whether you're a professional or you've got an interest in it and you just want to learn and engage to encourage and motivate others, that is a really, really great group. And obviously we've got our monthly seminars, which are free, which I always promote in that group. And our next one is Thursday morning. and at 10 o'clock, and the Eventbrite links will all be in the Mental Health and Wellbeing Professionals group as well.
There we are then. So there's no excuse, listeners and watchers. You've got to get involved. So thank you very much, Dawn, and enjoy the rest of France.
Thank you, Mike. It's been a pleasure. Thanks very much for having me.
No problem. All right, then. Nothing else left for me to say now other than have a great day. I know I will. And thanks very much for listening.